Now listen, despite them telling me that whatever I do, well, don't drop a Drake video on Halloween, well, you know I had to drop a Drake video on Halloween, and as everything is about to get scary for the cupcake, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and get ready and say it with me. Now when it comes to Drake, hold up, we can do that better. Get ready again, leave a like if you haven't already, and say it again with me. Now when it comes to Drake! I really didn't want to do it today, but you know, with the way this week has ended out and with the place that the cupcake has put himself in and with the way things are moving against him, well, it gets spooky every day in October for Drake, and on this very Halloween night, well, Drake has to really just sit around and realize that the moment he is sitting in right now, well, it may really be the last time before his image is ruined in a way that we have never even seen the half of it yet. And now, before I go any further into everything going on with Drake, from the lawsuit that he doubled down and just filed, to, well, now the multiple new lawsuits that are coming out against him and his buddy Adin Ross and their lame old group in Stake, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And now really, as these lawsuits for the cupcake are multiplying at the second, and every time you pretty much look up, well, Drake is either throwing out another one at Not Like Us, or more are coming out against Drake and Stake. Well, this really is the Halloween special, because it's all getting scary for Drake right now. Because just the way he is being pushed back on for, both with the Not Like Us lawsuit and everything he is trying to continue there, which we are going to discuss all of that and how, I can't say that part yet, but how mad I am. And well, from that to the stuff with Stake, which now multiple states are coming after Drake for genuinely being a part of some of the most awful, shameful, misleading, and distasteful stuff. Well, on one side of the lawsuit world, which I can't believe that I even have to say that, but this is hip-hop in 2025, and we have to talk more about paperwork than actual music because nobody does anything, and well, this is where we are. But to get back to my actual point, on one side of the lawsuit world, Drake is just a loser and a crybaby, and on the other, he is just a disgusting and awful person who's running a plot to just deceive and ruin people and their own well-being like a Batman villain or something. And so what has ultimately interrupted me listening to and enjoying the new Big L album and the new songs that he has with Mac Miller, Nas, and well, the official release of the 7-minute freestyle with Jay-Z? Well, happens to be all of this stuff around Drake, which now, in a long saga of drama this week that we have seen in hip-hop, which has already consisted of Drake being in previous lawsuits, which we have talked about with the first Stake issue, and then also with everything going on around J. Cole, which is also just invalidated his hip-hop card in a way. Somehow things managed to get worse than those two lawsuits, as what Drake came out and did the day after, well, was officially submit his appeal for the Not Like Us lawsuit that was just dismissed and thrown out by Judge Vargas, and pretty much what they told Drake was that there are absolutely no grounds to stand on the bogus garbage that you are trying to push, and so you gotta get out of here. But now, aside from Drake being sent back to the cosmics of the courtroom, he is back here again, and now pretty much what him and his team are doing, which I have to say, if we just want to talk about plays and really plots that people are running to try and just get it all big quick, I mean, Drake's legal team is running the play of the century here, because right now they are absolutely winning big, because, well, from the Not Like Us stuff to the Stake stuff, which no matter what they say and what they have to do for Drake, they know the reality and the severity of how bad Drake looks in all of this. Well, to just keep getting in all of these issues and to have to represent him, and with something like the Not Like Us lawsuit, he has chosen to just dig a deeper and deeper rabbit hole by continuing the suit and trying to appeal to it. Well, overall, expect to see the cupcake outside a lot more very soon, because with the amount of bags that he is going to have to hand over to these lawyers, well, it's going to be like the Drewski meme, you know, they are going to get what they need from him, but they are not going to get anything accomplished. And now, speaking of getting things accomplished and, you know, just being productive and doing any sort of meaningful work on any level, well, in terms of Drake and productivity, those things have never just went further away from one another and have never represented sheer and polar opposites. And so the reason why now is with the official issues with Drake and the Not Like Us lawsuit and him now doubling down on this appeal and really following with it through and doing it. Well, ultimately now in the new filing, his team formally stated their intent to appeal, and they didn't include yet the detailed arguments that they are gonna try to really just drag and stretch this thing out from, but those are supposed to come sometime soon. But they're obviously seeking to overturn the judge's ruling that Kendrick Lamar's lyrics were not defamatory, but they were hyperbole within a rap battle context. And well, right now, what Drake's team has said in an official statement is this confirms our intent to appeal, and we look forward to the Court of Appeals reviewing that filing in the coming weeks. And while Drake's team, I guess, is telling Drake that, Cupcake, Aubrey Graham, this is only going to take a few weeks and everything will be sorted out and your Karen ego will finally be able to get itself up, walk around, and act like you haven't taken the biggest loss in the history of not just hip-hop, but all of music, and maybe even something greater than that. And that's just not happening, because what the experts are saying with this entire process that Drake has just started, and if there ever comes any sort of a verdict from it, what is going to happen now? Well, just get ready for this, because honestly, when you understand where Drake is taking things and where this is all going, it really does feel like an abandonment of everything else he has ever stood for other than just Aubrey Graham and Tupac Shakur. And what I mean by that is now with this lawsuit, they are saying it could take well over a year for the appeals court to rule on Drake's case. And then if somehow the appeals court ends up siding with Drake, that means it could take even more years of litigation after that to finally solve the biggest Cupcake Karen issue that has ever been created in the history of paperwork. That, of course, all started already almost an entire year ago in November of 2024. So just when you see that Drake has potentially just started and is pushing for a multi-year process all over this Not Like Us lawsuit, I mean, first off, what we are seeing is that Drake is really now quitting and abandoning his identity as a musical artist and just somebody who is putting his head down and getting into the weeds of his work. Well, instead, of course, he is going to continue to be this courtside crybaby who is just going to whine over everything and try to act like he is going to pull some sort of a rabbit out of a hat and hit some sort of a red button. Well, that's all centered around the mystery and mystique of this lawsuit. Well, man, I mean, when are you going to get over it? When is this going to stop? And when are you seriously just going to accept defeat? Because with you really signing off and saying that you want this process to take years, after you pretty much got laughed out of the courtroom in one of the most obvious and disrespectful ways that you have ever tried to just subvert and really trick people into believing something that was clearly the furthest thing from the truth. Well, ultimately, I guess I can't wait to see what Drake and his team try to pull out to say why they're appealing this thing and why they are just dragging this thing out to new measures, because it's going to be absolutely ridiculous, and it's going to be some garbage that's just going to ultimately evaporate whatever is left of Drake's already evaporated legacy, of what already was evaporated from whatever was left from the last thing that already evaporated everything that was left from the last thing. And honestly, when I just read through these things and I see the cycle we're at and I see how much losing is going on, I just have to ask, when does it stop? How much losing can you possibly take? And beyond just the losing that you are taking and going through, how much losing are you going to willingly sign up and then willingly become a participant to be a joke for? Because honestly, with you doing this, Drake, I know you gotta act like you have some sort of a plan, and I know you gotta keep these fans invested in your music and career somehow. I mean, Drake, you're not gonna walk out of this thing with a W, and you are only gonna walk out with a bigger L for all of this in the long run. And when you just understand that basic concept and understand how with real things that the courts of appeals actually have to work on, well, a lot of the times they are real issues that actually need real solutions because of real issues with the people making the decisions. Well, for Drake, he's mad that he lost a rap battle. He then lost his label's support for losing that rap battle and reacting to it the way he did, which was by suing that very label for losing that rap battle. And now he's mad at the courts for determining what they did after losing the rap battle and just doubling down on the fact that he lost the rap battle. Well, overall, I think Drake's got to admit that he has lost this rap battle and it's time to move on. And now, speaking of moving on, within the years that it may take for Drake to just get through this whole Karen era and moment of his career, which is just going to become his whole identity if it has not already, to not just me and, well, hip-hop fans and Kendrick fans, but for everybody who is seeing him do anything. Well, in the meantime, it seems like the only other thing that is going to bring Drake any sort of attention and is only going to continue to define and overtake his entire name value and brand as a whole, well, is the other issue centering around his name right now, which, based on the way the early reports and just these other entities are moving against him now and are really putting out the claims that they are, well, it seems like we are at the beginning of something much worse that really may be reputation altering, not just in hip-hop, but well as a public figure on the highest level. Well, overall, when it comes to Drake and Stake and having to step up to the plate and face the horrible and deceptive practices that they have been using, well, now, after being sued by the state of Missouri and seeing everything that went down there, which of course is showing them suing Drake, Adin Ross, and Stake, well, for promoting the services that are on Stake and trying to act like the things that they are using are coming from their pockets. But well, in reality, it's all Stake's own resources, and therefore this is sending a false message and false impression to, well, these more impressionable audiences that view a lot of Drake and Adin Ross's stuff, and therefore, well, these are some serious grounds for a class action lawsuit because, well, this is just a dishonest consumer practice. Well, now for Drake, a second lawsuit has arrived. And again, it's not Drake who's doing the suing here, but it's Tupac being sued with lawsuit number 2. And now what is happening is that New Mexico is now suing Stake, Drake, and Adin Ross for pretty much the same exact thing that Missouri is, which again, if we want to break this down and understand now why 2 states are doing this against Drake and his little buddies and this awful team that he works with, well, it's because this entire brand has been built on deception, and even in terms of their regulations, the way that Stake has been utilized, it's worked around loopholes in ways that are not really supposed to be allowed to just get off the ground. And on top of that, when you see that Drake and Adin, who are the faces and spokespeople of Stake, well, always playing and acting like it's the best thing ever. Meanwhile, everything they have used and everything they have won and lost is all from the house on Stake. And then, you know, they are not just being transparent about that. And well, again, they're trying to get their fans who do lean younger, just in terms of the people that actually interact with their stuff, well, into things that they don't really understand the consequences of what they are doing, both in terms of the branding and operation that Stake tries to move within. And then again, and this is the most crucial thing to this whole suit, that Drake and Adin Ross are just manipulating an entire base of people to think that one thing is happening and one reality is happening with their choices, when in reality, they are telling people to use a service and give up their hard-earned resources and dig in their pockets to do so, well, to try and use something that is just rigged and set up, not just in terms of the odds and everything there, but also in terms of the impression of the winning that Drake and Adin end up doing and just how much they put up there in general. And so really with this, there's a lot of people in OVO and low-ranking stands who are trying to have gotcha moments and are saying that, you know, Jay-Z and Nas and a lot of other people and brands do the same things, and it's not an issue with them, but now because it's Drake and Adin Ross and Stake, everybody's mad and we are calling them out for this. Well, let's be clear. When Nas or Jay-Z are working with MGM or they're trying to get one of these big buildings off of the ground where, you know, you can try to make it big, well, to put it in the simplest terms possible, what the difference is between what a Nas or a Jay-Z is doing and what a Drake, Adin, and Stake are doing, well, to put it in just the simplest and most objective terms with all of this stuff, the difference is that with Jay-Z and Nas and the ventures they are pursuing compared to the Cupcake, well, they are trying to build buildings where you have to be a grown adult to just step in and actually understand and be aware of the choices you are making, which then, you know, people have the ability at least to be informed consumers and just to play in something where at the very least they understand the consequences of it. Well, compared to that, and then for Drake, Adin, and Stake, who they are really pushing this all on a very young audience. And well, again, these are impressionable viewers and they think that these guys are cool. And if they're doing it and they're winning it big, well, then maybe they should try it. Well, overall, this is what the very basis of the actual lawsuits is on, which is that for Drake and Adin, they are doing some very low and morally just wrong stuff, which is that they are pushing these services, which again, you need to be an adult to play for a reason, well, onto an audience that just shouldn't really even be exposed to it. And there's a lot of conversations about fake outrage and everything there, and I do think there are bigger discussions to have, because I don't think that Drake and Adin are the only problems in terms of just people and other things that are just pushing these services onto the wrong people. But with that said, we are a hip-hop centric force, and we are looking at how these rappers' careers are really shaking up and what this is really meaning for the legacy and, well, impact and honestly just grift that has been run by Drake for so long. Well, this is why this is of note, and based on what I am hearing, as it does sound like more of these things are going to pop up for Drake, and it really does sound like, well, again, this is getting a level of attention that is going beyond hip-hop, because the story and the very groundwork, unlike the Not Like Us lawsuit, is much bigger than that, from the perspective that every single person who turns on the news and sees what Drake and Adin are doing and who they are trying to do it to, well, they can just see that it's clearly wrong, and they understand the stakes of it all, which I was not trying to be funny by saying that, but I guess some jokes just write themselves. But, Drake is in trouble. And, as it's Halloween, and I'm sure Drake is going to do something cringe to try and just divert the negative attention from him, or at least the serious negative attention from these lawsuits. Well, what I'm just going to say to the Cupcake and everybody in OVO who doesn't want to accept the reality, well, I guess you won't have to, because this is only going to escalate from here, and things are only going to get worse. Well, everything is going to get crazy, scary, spooky, and hilarious. And so, yeah, that's all I got today. Let me know your thoughts on everything going on with Drake, just the embarrassment of these lawsuits and everything there, which, honestly, we shouldn't be shocked that Drake did something that's humiliating, but to just see Drake in this amount of legal trouble after he became the Cupcake Karen Supak, I don't know, it does just feel like a full circle moment, and honestly, it just does feel like a reminder, like the words you say and the things you do, well, they have power and they can have consequences if they are used and handled in the wrong way. But now, if you made it to this point in the video, I hope you have a great Halloween, I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a great weekend. And well, if you want to hang out with me for a little longer, be sure to leave a like and subscribe first off. And then if you want to see a video that I really didn't want to make, because I really didn't want to address all of these things, but now that I did, I honestly can say that it's one of the best discussions we have ever had on this channel. And if you have not seen it, I really do suggest to check it out. Well, I just said it. Check out the suggested video.